welcome back to Ask Amy and Rosie. We're super excited to be answering some more of your questions this month. Let's dive straight in, shall we?
Let's do it. The first question is from Eva, and she said, my handpan has the biggest tone field on the bottom, south end of top shell. And that's how I started out playing on Rav and then ISA handpan. But I wonder if there are advantages to not having the tone field right in front of your belly. This is a good question. It's a good question, and the answer is...
We play slightly differently, actually.
Yeah, we do,
from each other, naturally. I do the same as you, Eva. I have my lowest note at my belly button, but you...
I mix it up.
I'm
so sorry. Yeah, this is like controversial. I do. I just find different handpans work better for different things. I find the pros and cons of both are so like big. Normally I play in like a 1-2 position, so rotating it so that the two notes are either side, which is really helpful for that like left-right thing. But often I play with the lowest note in the centre as well.
There are a lot of players out there that you see that completely turn it the other way around. People like Nadeshana do it the other way around. Does Kirill play the opposite way around as well?
Often, yeah.
Kirill,
I've seen Sam Archer do it.
yeah. Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
Sorry, Justin. We've got an amazing player from LA.
Yeah.
He plays the other way around as well. So there's a lot of benefits from that as well. I think because you can easily reach your melody notes, like a lot of that kind of finicky stuff up here, people prefer doing it the complete opposite way around.
And I've seen people play with their handpans on the side, this way and that way, like all sorts of different... There's no correct way to play your handpan, but I guess there is a more common way, which is to have your lowest notes near you.
And I think especially if you've been playing pan for a while and you're trying to mix it up and you just can't quite find something that, you know, online to inspire you, you're not finding patterns that you want to do, just turn the handpan around and see what happens. There's definitely benefit to that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Amazing.
Nice.
Thanks, Eva. What's the hardest obstacle you had to overcome when you first started out playing the handpan, and how did you achieve it?
I mean, the hardest obstacle for me was definitely getting a handpan. Back in my day, you couldn't walk into these lovely makers' shops and find a big variety of handpans. I was trawling the internet. I heard someone playing a handpan, and I was like, I want to get one. But it took maybe 2 years between me starting to try and get a handpan, and I made a few errors. I accidentally bought like a tiny tongue drum one time, and it arrived, and I was like, where's the rest of it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there's a few missteps along the way, and then I got my first instrument, and that was joyful.
Cool. Yeah, I think mine was when I finally got my first instrument, which it took years of patience. I had to have a lot of patience. Was I really thought that my instrument was the same as others that I saw online. I thought mine was the same quality as the Hangs and the Halos, which was all that had been available at that point. And I was really just trying to make mine sound like the Daniel Waples of the world and the Hang Massives of the world. And I just could not get over the hurdle that I just couldn't make it sound like that. But I think in a way that was really good for me, because it forced me, the instrument that I had was really thin, very unstable, went out of tune quite quickly, and also didn't have the dynamic range that a lot of instruments do now. So I had to be really careful with how I was striking the instrument. So it taught me how to get a delicate touch, and it taught me how to make clever use of reverb and EQ and compression. It taught me how to record the instrument, because I was always like, maybe it's the recordings that don't quite sound the same. Turns out it was the instrument. But yeah, I think in a way, having a lower quality pan sometimes makes it really challenging to start off learning, but sometimes if it's kind of in that in-between space, forces you to learn how to be really attentive to the instrument and can actually be beneficial. I think that was my biggest hurdle in the beginning.
That's funny, I had the opposite experience. I got a handpan and I had no idea that there was any handpan community. I guess I just thought I was like the only person that had ever found this instrument. I didn't look online, I didn't look for tutorials, I didn't know the ways that other people were playing. And so I was kind of forced to make my own style. I borrowed from like the things that I could play. I could play djembes, I could play frame drums, and kind of had to kind of create my own style in that way. So I think I could have skipped a few steps out if I'd just looked around and kind of learned a bit more what other people were doing.
Yeah, nice. Funny how everybody's journey is very different.
Right.
And now in the world, there are so many teachers out there. You have access to this incredible Handpan Village and this whole academy, and so it feels like there's a right way to play now,
Right.
which is quite scary. But in the beginning, when we started, there wasn't a right way to do it, really. So it was almost quite freeing.
Yeah.
So if you ever feel like, what's there's so many hurdles and there's a way I should be doing this and I can't do it.
And actually, like, every time I picked up my handpan, I would just put it a different way around. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm playing it here, and then I'd pick it up another day and just play it, you know, the lowest note over here and here and here. And I was talking to a friend who plays lots of different percussion instruments, but not handpan, and he was like, don't you find it confusing that you don't know where the notes are every time you put it on your lap? And I was like, oh yeah, like, I could find a slip, like as if a piano player would like sometimes have the piano that way. So for me, that was like a kind of exploration myself, and then I decided on a way round to have my handpan.
Yeah, I think not having rules also slowed us down.
Yeah, definitely.
A little bit.
It's a balance.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for your question. Who have we got next?
Phil! How do you know it's time to take a break when you're composing? Should you plough through the hard moments or wait until inspiration comes back?
I think we have very different takes on this. I'm a take a break kind of girl. But the problem with my approach is that I don't compose very often. I improvise a lot. I write songs a lot because that's just something that flows well for me. But I don't compose very often, and I'm the kind of artist that has to wait for inspiration to strike, which actually that's not a thing to show off about. It's really not, because then you go months and months with writer's block and having to wait and waiting for this inspiration, and then when it hits, you kind of get sucked into this deep hole. And then your day has gone by and you haven't eaten or gone to the toilet. And your whole day's
Amy,
gone.
where are you?
So I think for me, the point that I need to remind myself is when there is tension in the body, when I'm getting frustrated about, it's not coming out how I want it to come out. If I'm making the same mistakes over and over, if I have an idea in my head of how it's supposed to sound and I can't do it, if that happens repeatedly, that's a sign that I should stop. But I think your process is a little bit different.
Often, yeah. I often work really well with a deadline or some pressure or some stress on me. And maybe we can unpack my classical music education, which makes me feel that that's a healthy way to behave or whatever. But I do find that having some limits and some rules does help me kind of function and work better. So I worked quite well with my month's project when I wrote a new song every month, even though it meant often it would get to like the last few days of the month and I'd be like, but it just really helped me to have a focus and kind of a point, I guess, to my creative process. But it still was helpful if I'd write something and then I had left myself time to go away and come back to it. I definitely think having a fresh brain and fresh ears is way better than trying to write right up until a deadline. So throughout the year I got way better at that, actually. Like, I think February the 27th or something, I was like, oh. But yeah, so I guess for me, imposing some structure and sometimes just doing something, even if you don't feel like it, even if you think it's rubbish and you're never going to use it for whatever your goal is, sometimes just writing something and that idea might eventually become a different song or part of a different project, but the fact that you kind of got out there and you got something down and you created something, for me it's often better than doing nothing. But that's more of a kind of getting started way. Once you're on, I mean, yeah, similarly, if your body is all crooked, it's definitely time to take a break.
But that's a good point, actually, is once you're in that composition mode, sometimes it's very easy to think, then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and you might have loads of good ideas, and start hitting the wall that I was talking about, that you can't actually play those ideas, maybe that's a sign that you should stop and actually just put those ideas aside, because at that point you've probably already got something really good. One idea is enough, and if you've got 15 minutes to just nail that one idea, then when you come back the next day, you can go back to that same idea that you maybe filmed or whatever, play it in a different way. Now do it. Now take things out of it. Now add a groove to it. Now change the chord under it. Now change the rhythm of it. Now change the melody of it. You don't need to add, oh, here's a new idea and now this and now this, and then I have to have a bridge for those sections to go together. So then we've got A, B, C, D, chorus. You know, you don't need all of that. And I think when it starts to get complicated and difficult, which is what you mentioned, Phil, that's a sign that you've done too much. Yeah, actually, totally. And it's already great.
But one thing is, just before you take a break, record what you're working on. So many times I'm like, this is so good, I'll never forget it, and I come back and I couldn't even tell you anything about what I just played. So even if you're 1000% sure that you'll remember it, just hit record or get a little video or even write it down in some way just to remind yourself, because I guarantee it will leave your brain.
Yeah, totally. All right, Esther.
Okay.
How do I practice the autopilot technique? My brain wants to make the things I try into a pattern. For example, if I want to autopilot the groove with my right hand and play tone field 1 on the beat with my left hand, the notation would look like this. Okay, well, hopefully we can get this on screen. Let's see what she says. Instead of autopiloting, my brain goes, okay, move your hands in this pattern. How do I override this tendency? So I think what Esther is asking is, how do I separate the two hands so that I can think my right hand is playing a groove now and my left hand is playing a bass line now, rather than my hands together make this whole pattern, which is also fine, I think. I think that's a fine tendency, but being able to separate the two gives you a bit more freedom to then, you know, improvise or be more creative while one hand is doing one thing. Yeah, it's a really, really good question. For me, I spend a lot of time practicing this, actually. I spend a lot of time, I find a groove that I really like. Let's play handpan in this video, shall we? For instance, this is really simple, but I come back to it over and over again because it's just really cool. Muting the ding, so it's like super funky. And then with my other hand, I might just practice playing that pulse at the same time on the side of the instrument. So now I'm just playing exactly the same thing. Or I might practice playing the pulse in between those strikes. Notice that I'm doing this away from notes so far. It's all about getting the independence before I start trying to turn it into a pattern, not doing anything crazy with it. Then I might do both. And then once I've mastered all three of those things, do it the other way around, so that then the left hand is practicing the groove while the right hand is practicing playing something slightly different. That way, your brain is directly and deliberately putting the roles onto the different hands rather than just getting cozy and settled in, this is how the pattern feels now. Yeah. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, one way, whatever pattern you're working on, is just to sing what one hand is doing. So suppose you were doing that pattern again and you sang your right hand. Dum.
Cat.
And when you're playing the left hand as well.
Cat. Dum. Cat. Dum. Cat.
And then can you sing your other hand?
Cat. 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 Yeah, now
you have to focus on the one that you're singing, the one that you're playing.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. That's really good challenge when playing polyrhythms. That's really tricky.
Super good. Yeah, because I think the example you gave was a 4/3 rhythm.
Ah.
I think that's true.
Checking our notes.
Okay, yeah. Don ga do ga do da don ga do ga da.
Almost?
Almost.
No, that's a dum dum da dum.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Dum da dum
Ignore what I just said. Dong. So it's dong, ga go ga, ja, dong, ga go ga, ja.
The right hand is playing, and the left hand is playing.
Ja.
Oops.
No, ja. Oh. Da.
Okay.
Ja, ga, 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 dum, ja, ga, ga, dum, ja. Dip, dip. See, this is perfect, right? When we approach this pattern, we can't play both the hands together.
And we have to think about what the pattern is.
Play just your left hand.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
Perfect. Play just your right hand.
1, 2. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Ah, we sing the dim, 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 dim. Yeah.
Now we sing the other hand. Dum, dum, ga, dum, dum, ga, dum, dum, ga, dum.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and I think sometimes in the beginning, and I do think the same way as you, Esther. I think sometimes in the beginning it's fine to go, like I look at the grid that you've written and I go, okay, so the left hand is coming down right before the right. And that's thinking about it as a pattern between the two hands. That's really helpful for learning it. And then being able to switch the focus between the two different hands and really understand them separately. That's how you develop.
Yeah. And one more way to practice your autopilot technique is to make a small variation on one of the hands. So we have... If instead of playing just single notes, I move to that other pattern Amy was playing all the notes, I need to know what both hands is doing so that I can change between them. So the original pattern was... double time. Single time, double time. If I try and say double time and both hands go double time, you know, something's gone, that's the instinctive reaction. So it means that only my left hand is listening to that instruction and my right hand is keeping super duper steady. So varying up small things within that kind of pattern means you stop thinking of ja, ga, dum, ja, and you start thinking of as dum, dum, ga, and ja, 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 ja. But when you put them together, it works really well. Also, we can't tell what you're thinking, so,
so it's
however it sounds.
If it sounds good, it is good. That's true. That's true.
Nice, good question.
Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you, Esther. Alrighty, moving swiftly on. Maria, how do I go from practicing specific grooves to actually improvising in a way that can utilize those grooves, weaving them in and out of on-the-fly moves? Is it just a matter of playing them over and over? Sometimes I can memorize one or two, but if I don't play it all the time, it slips away. Yeah, you have to keep it in your repertoire. I think it's really important. Yeah. If you want to remember grooves in the long run, I always say when I'm teaching rhythms and grooves is spend the time really focusing on the groove itself before getting excited and moving on, and really feel it. And see if you can, like we were just doing actually, see if you can start to feel the pulse at the same time, how it relates to the pulse. So for instance, dum, dum, da, dum, dum, da, the pulse is this, right? It sits in a slightly syncopated way.
2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
So whatever groove you're working on, finding the way that it relates to a pulse will then later on, when you want to start adding different grooves together or putting in another thing over here or joining in with someone else's groove, it's quicker and quicker each time to find that pulse. And once you've got the pulse, you've got the best framework that you could hope for to then just play, you know, any groove that's in your repertoire. But it is really important that once you learn the groove, you bring it back as often as possible when you sit down for your daily practice. And when you've got it, that you start getting creative with it straight away.
Totally.
That's the big thing for me, I think, is there's a real tendency for people to learn cool stuff, improvise cool stuff, and then never merge the two. and there's building blocks in between that we're missing.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. Like, I don't know 1,000 grooves or 1,000,000 grooves in my head. Like, I couldn't list all of the grooves that I know, but I can think of ways to vary them. So whether that's playing, you know, just doubling up the notes, you know, from 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and there's like 8 different slots that I can play with. So I can play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I just double one of those. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Then we double the second one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's cool. Let me double the third. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Or the fourth. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. By just using those really simple building blocks, I can vary up things so much. Of course, they were all a little bit boring as a groove, but suppose I add a slap into something. If I'm playing like 1 and 2 and 3, I can add a slap on the first one, 1 and 2 and 3, or the second one, 1 and 2 and 3, or the third, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or the fourth, 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm not thinking of all of those grooves as completely different ideas. I'm like, what's my base level groove? And then how can I make tiny tweaks to play between them? And that means that I was able to shift between all of those grooves really quite simply because they were basically the same thing. They were just a small variation. So maybe instead of trying to shift between 2 grooves that are totally different and your brain has to completely recalibrate, think of a small variation that you could do. And that way, it's only a smaller shift between grooves. And slowly, you might start shifting between grooves that are further and further apart, but definitely practice with things that are quite close together.
So you're not necessarily trying to remember a whole vocabulary of grooves. You're taking the time to practice exercises that are giving you the muscle memory to make those changes. And then you can play one groove and then pull out those changes.
Exactly.
Because your body will already know how to do it, so you've got headspace to think, I'm going to do it this way this time.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
So don't worry about learning every single groove in the world, but yeah, trying to find some fun ways to play with grooves that you already know, so that they might start to sound totally different.
And there are lots of really good exercises for this as well. So this playing with doubles on different beats is a really good one. Utilizing, like, finding grooves that you like here on the Academy and then maybe playing that ghost note this way, you know, and giving yourself time to see how that groove sounds if you take that one beat out, or how that groove sounds if you make that ghost note a bit louder. And being creative with those specific grooves, but turning it into an exercise, like a creative exercise.
That's such a good challenge. Okay, find your favourite groove on the Academy. Let us know a groove that you really like. And just play with taking a beat out of it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about too many complicated things.
Yeah.
But just taking a beat out of it. So if your groove happened to be this one, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. Whatever your groove is, taking a beat out will make it sound so different, and you can worry about more complicated changes after that one.
You could even go be even meaner, and choose one groove and just force yourself to stay with that groove for the entire week of practice. So you can't do anything else, but you'll get really bored of it.
Ooh.
So you have to find ways
to mix it up and make it fun.
Yeah.
A week is a long time.
It's a very long time.
Maybe the one session of practice.
But you know, a lot of us are only playing for 15 minutes a day in between stuff or whatever. So whatever your time frame is, you know, force yourself to only do that groove, but you have to make it interesting. Cool.
Rules are fun.
Rules are fun. Alrighty.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Who's up?
Mary. Mary asked, have you ever played for or know any other players who have played for special populations such as people with dementia, special needs, babies, children, people with trauma, and lots of other different types of people? And as well as playing in therapeutic settings, events and weddings. So yeah, asking about the different places that we've played our handpans. Yes, I have. I do this loads. The handpan I've found is such a helpful instrument. So often I play in hospitals, kind of moving ward to ward, and we've done it together a couple of times. And it's just a great instrument for it. You know, the people in sort of all these settings, often people in wards and in hospitals, are surrounded by quite loud noises all the time, and it can be quite intrusive to kind of come into someone's bedroom essentially and say, I'm gonna play music at you. And obviously we always ask permission and consent and stuff, and people can say no. But often just getting a handpan out of a case, people are like, oh, you know, what is that? It looks so interesting. And the second you play like one chord, people often really like resonate with the sound of it. Which I think is a really beautiful thing, and the kind of vibrations of it. So I've found going around different hospital wards, especially playing covers of songs that people already know, is a really great way to connect with people really quickly. So I've been doing that a lot. I did that before I kind of played the handpan a lot. So I did it maybe with like a cajon or with my voice, but I found that the handpan is just the perfect instrument for those settings because it is novel, it is fun. So if you're playing songs that people know, then you're kind of bringing a really interesting element to it. And just the actual sound of it is just so lovely that people tend to be quite interested and want to know a bit more about it.
Yeah, I've not done as much in that field as you have, but I've spent a lot of time in schools with children that have been shifted to referral units and that kind of thing, and found it to be a really beautiful tool within hello traffic, within a wider context of other elements within a session, like meditation or stretching, breathing, that kind of thing to use as regulation. And that's been a really beautiful tool for that. Mary also asked, did you get to try playing the handpan, and if so, did you get them to try to play the handpan? And in many settings I will bring in a tongue drum as well, so that people can have a bash and not have to worry about technique or anything like that. Something
a bit more robust. When I work with babies, I always bring in a tongue pad.
I think bringing in our most expensive, delicate instruments is not always the best shout, because you just don't know. You don't know what the situation is going to be.
Yeah, I had a session a couple of weeks ago with babies, like people under one, and their parents, obviously, or their carers. And I was playing my rap, having a lovely time, and this little kid went beeline, and within minutes was sort of sitting on top of my instrument, but was like fascinating, you know, and like imagine the vibrations going through that instrument when you're only like so small, and he just had both of his hands on and then started trying to climb on top, but it, you know, I felt confident that I could, that instrument, I'm not saying climb on top of your instruments, all right, but knowing that it wasn't my really expensive instrument meant that I could let this child be quite hands-on and not feel worried about it, which is a really nice feeling.
I would love to hear if there is anyone here watching that has experience working directly with people with dementia, or people in stroke units, or people who are looking for help with motor skills and that kind of thing. Because I've never worked in that setting, but I just think that the handpan, because of its whole right and left thing, because it's so easy to get a beautiful sound out of, and yet there's so much going on when you start to gently get a little bit more complex. I think that it must do really powerful stuff with plasticity and whatever that stuff is.
I was working in a neurological unit, and the occupational therapists, so the kind of the hands-on people, were really impressed with just how we had 3 kind of 2-hour sessions. And I think when people are doing something that's really fun and really enjoyable, because, you know, doing a bunch of physio exercises without, you know, it can be quite boring and quite frustrating, but actually, you know, even things like holding shakers and stuff was like, people were really noticing the effects. Yeah, I guess the answer is I have loads of stories about using the handpan in different settings, but the short answer is it's fantastic, and if you're considering doing this, you won't regret it. Like, people love it, and it's really, really rewarding and joyful. So,
and if you already are doing it, share about it in the village, because I'd be really interested to hear about it. Yeah, cool. Thank you, Mary. Amazing. Gosh, we got loads. We got loads in here.
Well, we're coming up to 32 minutes, so we can always do some of them next time.
Okay, let's do one more question then, shall we?
One more question. Dr. Stephen.
Hello.
I often see, or at least it appears this way, people resting their forearms on the handpan whilst they're playing. Please share your thoughts on this.
I'm very guilty.
I'm so guilty of this.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Do you want the teacher answer or the real answer?
Let's answer both.
You shouldn't, probably. Of course, the whole instrument resonates. If I'm muting some part of the resonance, inevitably I'm changing the sound. So if you want your whole handpan to be completely resonant, you shouldn't be touching it. And you're very limited in movement. I can use my elbows and my forearms to get a full range of motion. If my hands are already touching the pan, I can't get a bigger range of motion than that. However, if I'm playing a pattern where my hand is staying up at the top, I'm tired. I might do it. I do it. I do.
And I'm sorry. Sometimes you'll see people do it on purpose as well. If you're wanting to deliberately mute stuff, or actually in general, it's a funny in-between, because what we teach is try to avoid unnecessary movement. So actually keeping everything as low as possible is a really good thing. It's really beneficial because you're already there ready to do all the stuff, and if you need a bit more motion, you can deliberately bring that in. Generally, we want to keep everything in a home position as close to the pan as possible. But if you start to get into the habit of resting on the pan, then you're getting all these brushing sounds as you're playing.
How many takes have I ruined?
In the sticky summer, you hear this horrible sound, and especially as well, and I've done this at gigs, is this. I'm about to play a composition and I'm telling a story.
Yes,
I've got my forearms on the ding, and if I keep my forearms just for a little bit longer while I chat to you, the camera, da 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 da, it doesn't take very long. The ding will now be ever so slightly out of tune, and the longer I go there, the more I'm warming it up, and the more out of tune you're sending the ding. It won't stay like that forever, don't worry. But you might notice that happen. You might go, oh no, something sounds different, what have I done? It's heat. So you want to avoid that as well. You might notice it on bottom notes sometimes as well. If your leg is resting on a bottom note, you'll adjust the tuning a little bit.
I'll say, I've taught, it was like a festival or something, we'd all been teaching a lot, and just one of the students was just sitting there like this, and I was like, oh no, is the class like that for it? So I would probably avoid this level of school child, just for all, that level of pressure on a ding. Eventually you could, definitely knock it out. So if you're a maker watching this, we never rest on our handpans. Never ever.
Never. And definitely not I've seen this as
well. Try and avoid these things.
Yeah, this is not good for the instrument.
But sometimes if you know you're keeping your hand up, or if I'm doing this kind of thing, it's sometimes nice to know where your hand is. But it is inconvenient. It means that then if I'm playing this side of the pan, I'm out of the way. So definitely try not to. I try not to do it.
I think try not to do it in general, and try to do it intentionally
if you're going to do it. Yes.
This kind of thing. I'm playing cool muted stuff. I want to be muting it. It's on purpose.
Yeah. Show us without your arm.
I've struggled.
Yeah.
But if I keep myself really low.
Ooh, that's cool.
Oh, it's sticky, I'm sweaty. It's kind of gross.
But maybe that's another challenge. Intentional arm movement. Find out when you tend to do it and see if you can check yourself, but see if you can use it for a reason. Because that sounded really cool with the arm.
That's cool. There are definitely ways to use it. Yeah. And now that we've talked about it, you'll see it more and more.
I'm going to get all these comments now, arms on the pad. I'm like, no.
Thank you so much.
Great questions.
Yeah, really good stuff. And keep them coming in.
Please do. Yeah, if we didn't get to your question this month, don't worry, we might be able to get to it next month, or keep them coming in.
Yeah. We are filming this on the hottest day of the year so far.
It's a heatwave.
So I'm ready to turn the lights off and open a window.
Yeah. But thank you so much for watching. You all rock. And keep your questions coming.
Look forward to seeing you in the village and seeing your stories as well.
Yeah.
And your responses to some of these questions.
And you calling us out for leaving our hands on things.
See you all very soon.
Bye.